All right, well, the equations that we have been working with, trinomials, we are going to continue with them, except we're just going to be adding some more parts to it. Graphing them is what we're going to be working on today. And yeah, this is section 10.1, graphing quadratic equations. And those equations, are familiar. They're just going to have this form. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. The only difference is that we put a y out here. This is what we had been working with before. Now we have these things set equal to y, and we're just going to graph these on the coordinate plane. They are not linear equations because this squared changes that. Because it's squared, that takes the shape of a parabola. Because of that x squared, it's going to have a parabola shape. And the parabola shape is going to be in the shape of a U, or it might be an upside down U. But the number in front of the x squared is going to tell us if it's this form or if it's going to be this form. So first thing we're going to look at is to see if it's like a U or upside down U. And what really tells us that is the A up here. If this A is positive, it's going to take this form. If it's negative, it takes this form. So positive A, you have this U shape when we graph it. Negative A is, this form. And you can see with either one of these, they come to a certain point and then it turns around and goes back the other way. On both of these, that is your vertex. The only difference with this vertex is that that is a maximum point. Right, so if we were working our way this way, we'd get to a certain point, that would be the maximum, and then would continue back down. This one, this vertex, naturally, this vertex is a minimum. That's a minimum point. Because if you're working your way down, you get down to a certain point, you're not going to go down any further because it turns around and goes back up. You have a minimum point. So if the A is positive, we have a minimum point. If the A is negative, we're going to have a maximum point. That's the first part that we're looking at. Very, very simple. It's either positive or negative. Second thing we're dealing with is axis of symmetry. And in the parabola, one side takes the same shape as what the other side does. Axis of symmetry is just going to be a vertical line running through this vertex, and this side would match up with this side. So we're going to be calculating what our axis of symmetry is using this formula. X equals negative b all over 2a. In our equation, whatever is in front of the x, not the x squared, but whatever's in front of the x is our b value. So we just plug in the b here. Whatever's in front of the x squared is our a. We plug into a, simplify this, and that tells us your axis of symmetry. And number 3 was calculating our vertex. In vertex, all we need to do, once we get our x value, plug in x into the original and solve for y. So, solve for y. Plug in x and then solve for y. All right, 3 general parts of this. And we'll go through all three of those. I want to do 3 examples of this too, just to show you how it works out. All right. First one, start them out relatively simple. First one, we have y equals x squared plus 3. First example. Y equals x squared plus 3. And again, we'll just go through our 3 steps on working with this. First thing we look for is it got a positive a or a negative a. Whatever's in front of the x squared, there isn't anything, I mean, it's just going to be a 1. Okay, so it's a positive 1. So that means we have parabola with this shape, and it's going to be a minimum point. All right. Now we'll calculate our axis of symmetry, and axis of symmetry is just going to be the line that runs through the center of this. And that is x equals, remember, negative b, the b is going to be 0. All over 2 times a is 1. All right, I got 0 because where I would have an x here, it would be 0x. That's why my b is a 0. My a is going to be a 1 because there would be a 1 in front of this x squared. There's only 1x there. And simplifying this, axis symmetry is x equals 0. And, all right, our vertex. We just plug in our axis of symmetry point, or our x value for this. Where x is 0, we're going to calculate where y is. So y equals 0 squared plus 3. Simplify this. 0 squared is just 0, 0 plus 3. Very simple. Y equals 3. All right. So that means and the vertex is going to be x equals 0, y equals 3, and it would be at this point. Okay, graph this. Just a basic graph. We are not going to get extremely tied up in what the graph looks like. Just going to get a rough idea. All right, x and y coordinates. Vertex is at 0, 3. So x is 0, y is 3. Up here's our vertex. Again, this vertex is a minimum point, and we're just going to roughly draw these other parts in of the parabola. If I wanted to be more exact, I could plug in numbers for -1, -2, and +1 and +2 for x, and that would tell me our corresponding y coordinates. But we just want a general idea of where this graph is heading. And that's all the 3 steps to do with each one of the problems. Get your minimum, or is it a minimum or a maximum? And that tells us what a is. Calculate our axis of symmetry, our equation for that, which in this case, x ended up being 0, and calculating our vertex by plugging in x equals 0 for our x coordinate, and then that'll give us the corresponding y coordinate. After we simplify it, we have y equals 3. Here's our vertex, 0, 3. I'll do 2 more examples. We'll do this one. Y equals negative x squared minus 4x minus 4. Okay, first thing, is this going to be a upside down U or a regular shaped U? Our A is in front of the x squared, so our A is negative. So therefore, we have this upside down shape U. This is going to be a maximum point. All right. Second thing to do is calculate our axis of symmetries. Axis of symmetry. So x equals negative b. Our b up here is negative 4. In this axis of symmetry, if you have one negative, it's going to mess up your whole system. So be careful on doing your work. It's minus 4, so your b is negative 4. But remember, in the formula, it's negative b all over 2a. So then 2 times our a. A value here is negative 1. All right, so negative in front of a negative 4. 2 negatives make it a positive. So positive 4 on top. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. This simplifies 4 over negative 2 to negative 2. So x equals negative 2 is your axis of symmetry. This will be the most challenging part, is making sure that you do not lose a negative. And so just be careful on your calculations. All right. Vertex. Plug in negative 2 into our original equation, and that'll tell you what y equals. So y equals negative 2 squared minus 4 times negative 2 minus 4. A lot of negatives on this. Take it one step at a time and calculations will be fine. So negative 2 times negative 2, and negative 2 squared is a positive 4. Don't forget this negative is out in front of it. All right, negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8 minus 4. So negative 4 plus 8 minus 4 simplifies to y equals 0. So at our vertex, then it's going to be negative 2, 0. Vertex, x-coordinate is negative 2, y-coordinate is 0. All right, quickly graph this. Vertex is negative 2, 0. Here's your vertex, x and y, negative 2, 0. And that's a maximum point. We have an upside down u. So just put in your upside down u. And there we are. We got that one done. I would do a third example. If you have got this, you don't need to watch the third example. If you want to go over some more, or at least see another one, then just stay on the line and we'll get through that third example. Y equals x squared plus 2x plus 3. Okay, first thing, what is our A value? A value is going to be positive. A equals positive 1. So that's positive. We are going to have the U shape, and our vertex here is a minimum point. All right, number 2, axis of symmetry. Plug into our formula for axis of symmetry, and that is x equals negative b over 2a. B up here is a 2, so plug in the 2 in the right spot, all over 2a. A is positive 1. Simplify this. Negative 2 over 2, which equals negative 1. Axis of symmetry, x equals negative 1. That is your equation. Third thing, find our vertex. So to get our vertex, just plug in negative 1 into the original equation. Y equals negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 plus 3. Negative 1 squared is 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 3 is just going to be 2. Y equals 2. So your vertex is coordinates negative 1, 2. Vertex is your axis of symmetry, where x is negative 1. Y, after we plug the negative 1 in here, y we get 2. That is your vertex. Graph it. Your worksheet already has graphs on it. Vertex negative 2 or negative 1, 2. So negative 1, positive 2. There is your vertex. That is a minimum point. So here's our parabola. All right. I've done 3 examples. If you need some extra help, not a problem. We can go over those in a Zoom meeting, either with our office hours times or any other additional time if you want. Just text or email me and let me know. Thank you.